Hello, everybody. Please, first and foremost, if you tune in and my mic is not working, let me know. I tested it all out. It should be good to go, but last time it was a little bit fuzzy. We are talking today about this shoulder, specifically about pressing strength and mobility, because next week I'm going to be talking about pulling strength and mobility. So today we're talking about the shoulder and what is needed for proper shoulder function, okay? So first of all, let's talk about the structures of the shoulder, right? So a lot of times we think, obviously, the shoulder blade and the humerus, right, have a lot to do with the shoulder, but also the clavicle. And I find that a lot of people do not think about the clavicle as a mover of the shoulder or as an important part of the shoulder, but it most certainly is, right? So if you have a bad positioning of your head or tight muscles around the neck and that are impacting your ability to move your clavicle, it will directly impact your ability to move your shoulder. So, or to move the shoulder blade, more importantly, and then the shoulder itself, right? So we just want to I want to make sure that we are addressing all the things. So if you've ever watched any of my lives or listened to anything that I've had to say, I always say, look, the spot of the pain or the spot where you think might be the problem might not in fact be the problem. So let's always try to take everything into account. Okay, so when you're dealing with the shoulder, don't forget about the clavicle. All right, so first and foremost, what we want to do is assess, right? So we're going to assess range of motion here. What does the shoulder do? The shoulder does a whole lot, right? So is capable of very much range of motion, right? So if we are capable of so much range of motion, we want to make sure that we assess to make sure that we have even range of motion and that we are in control of that range. So what do we have here? We have shoulder flexion, right? Being able to reach up over our head. We have shoulder abduction. Can we reach out to the side? We have horizontal abduction and abduction. We have internal rotation, external rotation. We got multi-directional movements. We've got circumduction. We have so much capability. What we want to do, especially us barbell athletes and CrossFitters, we want to make sure that we have an equal range of motion on both sides. All right. So I want you to test your shoulder flexion, right? If you could need more help in finding out how to test that, I have them all over my YouTube or I have them on other posts here. Shoulder flexion, hugely important. Can you reach your arms overhead and cover your ears with your biceps? Can you do that comfortably and can you do that equally from left to right? Hugely important if you want to press a barbell overhead. Shoulder abduction. Can you reach out wide and come all the way up without losing the ability to keep your hands pulled back? Very important to assess. And can you do that equally from left to right? Internal rotation. Can you rest your hands loosely in the small of your back and allow the elbows to come forward, right? Internal rotation is moving in. This is just a very, very simple rudimentary way to test that. Can you do that comfortably? Do you get a zinging in your shoulder when you do that? Probably want to address it. External rotation. Can you, palms up, chest up, can you externally rotate and come out to a fair amount of range, right? I'm not getting into specifics. This is just simple tests that you can do. Can you do that equally on both sides and is it comfortable? All right, and then horizontal abduction. Can you bring your hands across? Can you bring them adduction out wide? This is one that I actually like people to videotape for themselves because if you videotape yourself from the front, going horizontally, and then from the back, are your shoulders moving in order to compensate and get you through that range? Do you end up going up? Do your shoulders elevate? That's something that you want to look at. And if that is happening, let's address it, okay? And then multi-directional. Can you reach up and around? Can you do that equally on both sides, okay? Most people, if you have something going on your shoulder, one of those is going to be a little bit uncomfortable. And then we have circumduction, right? Can you comfortably go in a large circle? Can you go forward? Can you go back and do both sides feel comfortable? Okay, this is what we're getting at here. Can you go through these ranges of motion, and can it be at ease? If there is a point in the range that feels sticky or just doesn't feel quite right, then we want to dive a little deeper there, okay? And if one side feels more deficient than the other, obviously something we want to look at, okay? Huge thing, especially with pressing, that we want to have equal range and equal strength on both sides. All right, if you have any questions, please just shoot them in here. I am looking at the chat. Thank you for joining. All right, so next, flexibility, right? So we looked for general range of motion, right? But flexibility is what range is that muscle or joint really capable of going through passively, right? So when we think about this, we tend to think of like the musculature, and a lot of times us barbell athletes figure, oh, well, if I can't get into that range, it's probably my lats causing a restriction. The lats kind of get a bum rap when it comes to the shoulders, right? It's like lats and psoas, right? Everybody blames those guys, but there are so many muscles that interact with the shoulder, and you can't just blame one over the other, right? We got the lats, we got the pecs, we got the sternocleidomastoid interacting with the clavicle, we got obviously the rotator cuffs, we got the triceps and the biceps. Those actually interact with the shoulder. So when somebody says, oh, well, I can't reach overhead, it's probably my tight lats, we want to dive a little bit deeper and make sure that we are addressing more so than just the lats, right? So think about all the muscles that interact with the shoulder. We had a question that was said, she was having problems with her shoulder due to carrying her kid around all the time. So this could be a combination of things, but what we really want to look at is how is that bicep getting strained from carrying that kid around. It's called mommy arm. We get mommy arm, mommy hip, happens all the time. My biggest zinger there is, okay, well, what kind of strength imbalance are we dealing with from left to right as far as the bicep is concerned? And is the shoulder being held in a position where it is stable, or is it just bearing the brunt of that kid, right? So do we have adequate strength in that bicep? Do we have too much strength in that bicep? And do we have adequate shoulder mobility? Are we holding it in a position of power, or are we just letting it sink down? Okay, so the bicep is hugely important in that shoulder. If it gets irritated, you are not going to be able to get through a comfortable range because the bicep acts as a shoulder stabilizer, right? So we just really want to kind of address all the things, right? All right, strength testing, right? So when we're thinking about the shoulder, we want to make sure, especially barbell athletes, that we address left and right shoulder imbalances, right? One of the main things that I see with shoulder issues or pressing problems is that one arm is much stronger than the other and vice versa, right? So if we move on to the barbell too soon, we miss the opportunity to really address any of those strength imbalances. Not too much of a problem when we are first starting out, but as we get stronger and as we push heavier load, the body starts realizing, hey, I either can't keep up or I'm doing too much, I'm going to start falling apart. So the weaker arm is like, wait, what are you doing over there? Why are we pushing so much weight? And then the stronger arm is like, wait, I've been pushing all this load. It's time for the weaker one to freaking catch up. Okay, so we want to make sure that in the beginning, or if you are having these issues, we test out strength and balance, right? How do we do that? We think about the single arm press, right? So can you single arm press with the dumbbell the same amount of weight as you can from left to right? Okay, so simple test is 10 rep max, right? What can you single arm press for 10 rep max left in relation to right, right? Test that out. How does it go? All right, same with the high pull, right? Can you high pull the same amount of weight for the same amount of reps from left to right? If you cannot, that is something you really want to dive in and address. External rotation. Do you have the same amount of strength doing an external rotation? And this can be down by your side. These are power reels. Love them. This can be down by your side. Do you have the same amount of strength? Do you have the same amount of range from left to right? Can you do it in abduction? Are you stable there? Can you get that external rotation done? Is it painful? And is it equal from left to right? Scapular reach. Can you keep your shoulder blade pinned down as you then reach overhead? Some people, most people, will have a harder time on one side compared to the other. These are all things that you want to flush out, either in the beginning when you're first starting out, or if you are dealing with shoulder problems. All of these things need to be addressed, and you need to really dive deep to see where that imbalance or where that fault might lie. Okay. All right, strength testing. Very important to get to figure out what is strong from left to right. All right, stability. Can you lock that shoulder in position, and can you keep it in a position of power throughout your ranges? And can you even find that position, right? So again, with the scapular reaches, can you lock that shoulder down and then still be capable of a range of motion of reaching overhead? Very difficult to do. Can you do a single arm plank? Can you just rest on the floor in a single arm plank position? And then is that equal from left to right? How long can you hold it? Is it comfortable? Bottom up press. You've seen me if you've watched anything else. One of my favorite things to do. Can you hold the kettlebell upside down? Even at just a hold. Can you then press it? Is one side much more capable than the other? Very important to flush out. Mini band presses. This is one of the hardest things to do for people that have winging or bowing out of the elbows, right? So if you watch your pressing pattern and you see that your elbows deviate out to the side before you then go up overhead and then they come back in, or your push-ups end up going like this, then you do not have full control of your shoulders, right? You're not stabilizing at the shoulder in order to find the optimal position for your pressing, right? One of the best things that you can do for that is with a band, right? So now we're going to press out on the band, make sure that we keep a vertical forearm as we then go up and down. And you'll see these as banded wall slides or just presses, mini band presses. Again, I have these on my YouTube. This can be a test. Can you do it? And then this can be a way of getting stronger at it. Can you put this into your programming so that you start addressing this and getting better at it? Okay. Also, supine wise or standing wise, can you press out on that band and maintain a nice long arm as you then reach all the way up and down? Is that comfortable for you? Can you get through the full range without having to bend the elbows or lift the shoulders all the way up into your ears? All very good things to either test or address in your programming, okay? All right, so we went through the structures. Clavicle, shoulder blade, humerus, right? Arm, very important that they all work well and that they all glide smoothly. Assessment, can you go through all of the range of motions and can you do them comfortably? Flexibility, make sure that you are not just restricted or thinking about the lats or can I reach overhead? Can you get comfortably into the other ranges? And are there other muscles that you need to address? Your biceps, your triceps, your pecs, the huge impact on the shoulder gliding smoothly. If you have not addressed them, check them out. All right, strength testing. Do you have equal strength from left to right? Strength and stability, right? We want to test out the what we have from left to right. Is it equal? Okay, what impact does this have on our lifting? All right, so let's think about it. If we have uneven range of motion lifting our arms overhead, what do you think happens when we then take the barbell and reach overhead? what we're doing is we're forcing that deficient arm into a range of motion that it is not comfortably capable of going into. So little by little, we are causing trauma on that affected arm, right? So we want to make sure that if we do not fully have that range of motion, we stick to a range of motion that arm can comfortably go through. And if this means that you have to do landmine presses or you have to use dumbbells, then please do so. Do not get greedy and go to the barbell until you have adequate pressing range of motion. Okay, any imbalance needs to be addressed if we are going to be doing barbell movements, right? So if one arm is really capable of pressing overhead with tons of strength, but then the other one is not, we want to address that before introducing barbell movements. Ideally, you would use dumbbells at the weight and the capability of what that weaker arm is, right? So you can still do bilateral movements, but you need to be at a load that weaker arm can comfortably and positionally sound really control and use well, right? So stick to the dumbbells for a while until that bum arm catches up. Then we can transition more to the barbell. Use your dumbbells. They are underappreciated. Use them, use them, use them. Also with the landmine. Okay, introduction of standing too soon. I see this all the time in CrossFit. Obviously, we don't do a lot of seated movements. I am a huge fan of introducing a kneeling position first for pressing patterns, and then a seated position, and then moving on to a standing position, right? What we want to do is eliminate any distraction or any possibility for compensation when pressing. So one of my favorite things to do is from a kneeling position, can you press vertically without any lateral deviation of the shoulder, right? So if you butt yourself up against the rig, or if you butt yourself up against the wall, can you, from this position, press all the way up and down without the elbow bumping into that wall? This is a good way for you to automatically realize whether you are stabilizing at the shoulder or whether you are compensating and trying to wiggle around a proper position in order to get overhead. Test that out. Are you capable of doing it from left to right? If not, go back to that move and figure out a way to get stronger there, practice, before transitioning to standing or barbell pressing, or especially any explosive movements, okay? So can you kneel against the wall and press vertically without bumping into that wall? Next, can you do seated presses, right? Can you really, just sitting down on a bench, press that barbell or press those dumbbells overhead and get into a comfortable full overhead position? If not, when you stand with that barbell, you're more than likely compensating and finding that position without actually owning or having that position. This will impact your shoulder health down the road. Like I said, if you're a beginner and you're getting away with this stuff now without pain, when you get stronger and when you get more capable of moving more load, or you've done it for longer, your body starts getting pissed off and it starts realizing, hey, you didn't take care of me in the beginning, so now I'm going to start barking at you, right? And so you want to make sure that you go in and you address these things right away or at the beginning, okay? Or go back and just do it now. Okay, introduction of momentum too soon. That is another big thing that I see in traditional CrossFit athletes or CrossFit environments. We introduce the push press or the push jerk before we have full control in a strict position. So like I said before, can you do it kneeling with proper control? Can you do it seated with proper control and proper range? If so, then go to the standing position, and can you do it strict? Once you master and own that strict position, then we can start introducing the momentum, right? But before you just go crazy and start repping out push presses and push jerks, can you do it with pauses in your positions, right? So can you pause in the dip for the push press, make sure that you are in a proper spot? Can you drive it up and then pause again at the top just to reinforce and own that overhead position? Once you introduce jerks, pause in the dip, pause in the catch. Take advantage of those pauses so that you can really do some self-evaluation and make sure that you are in the right spots and you are there comfortably. Okay, so try not to get caught up in the, oh, well, I just want to push press and push jerk as much as possible, as fast as possible, especially if you have not passed all of these tests leading up to that moment. All right, what is this all for? I have a program coming out on Monday. It is called Perfect Press. If you go through all of these things, you go through your assessment, you go through some flexibility testing, you test your strength, you test your stability, and you are not really just nailing it across the board, I got something for you. So it's 8 weeks to perfect pressing, right? It's an 8-week course, videos attached, programming attached. You'll be doing training programming 2 days a week. It's not too much. I expect you to put it into your normal programming. What it does is after your assessment, what do you need to address? And then how can you really, with some effort, start minimizing those imbalances and start addressing your pressing pattern so that you minimize risk of injury or you start healing from current injury. This is going to be released Monday. It is $25. I only put a price point on there because if it's free, you ain't going to do it. So $25, 8 weeks of programming. That is going to be released on Monday. If you know anybody that would benefit from that, please send it on over to them. And if you have any other questions, please contact me. I gave you things to test, right? Gave you things to test. There are exercises that you can do in order to fix them. Once you test, contact me and tell me what you found. I will get you on the road to recovery. All right, guys, let me know if there's anything else that you want to cover. Next Friday, we're going to cover pulling and how we can address any imbalances there, because guess who has another course? It's called Perfect Pull, and we're going to address that next week. All right, thank you for joining, and I'll see you next time.